gonna put it on.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December meeting of the Lower Makefield Township Historical Commission. I have to say, I've been on the commission a number of years, and this is my first December meeting. So this is a very committed group. We usually take December off. So, yes, Suzanne is in the waiting room. Hi, Suzanne. We're just starting the meeting now.
I'm on mute. It's only
Okay, good. Welcome. Okay, so welcome to the December meeting. The agenda is we will go through and review and approve the November minutes. I have a treasurer's report from Tom. We're going to look quickly through the existing business updates, spend most of our time on the accomplishments of 2024 and planning for 2025. And then we'll adjourn after that. Okay. So before we begin, the minutes for October, which actually should say November. So that's one correction we have. It's that the meeting minutes should say November meeting minutes. But did anybody else, oh wait, no. Did anybody else have any comments or corrections to the meeting minutes for November? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Okay. All right. Good. All right. Good. Thank you. Moving on. Treasurer's report. Let me share my screen here again. Tom had put this together. Of course, this is the one I don't have in this application. I thought I put them all into one application. Okay, here is Tom's treasurer report. So what Tom had done is he had listed out, these are all of the donations that we received in support of the Ghost Walk. So that totaled 3,230 was the revenue that was raised at the Ghost Walk. I'm assuming that revenue is net of all the expenses paid, because Tom didn't put that in here. So that was deposited into the foundation account. And then the account balance now for the foundation is just over $19,000 or almost $19,500. As far as the general fund expenses, so that's the money that is in the township budget, we had some expenses for education. And then as Cathy and I have put out in separate emails, we had joined two groups that are focused on providing education to historical societies and commissions. So that money was in there. But instead, in general, we have a lot of money left in the general fund balance. Well, that was because we had put money aside for matching grants for the Keystone grant and the CLG grant, but we didn't use that this year. That is what was put into next year's budget. So any questions on the treasurer's report then? Okay, good. Then we'll move on to the next topic, which is existing business. So if we can I ask Jeff to give an update on the historic resources survey?
So after several deadline extensions and multiple pleas out to more and more parties to get a bid to the historical survey, we do have a company coming forward to do a bit of a revisal of their bid to match our requirements with the gathering volunteers from the Lower Makefield Historic Commission and those we can gather beyond that. to augment the work. The firm is based in Harrisburg, so I guess it probably makes a lot of sense for the locals to be putting the ground effort in place here. We'll have to talk to Jim Jiski to make sure that since we only have one bidder, if we can still move forward. I think originally we were told we had to have at least 2 bidders, but when you have no bidders and you've had to move the deadline 3 times but 1, I think that might be an exception, but we'll have to work that part out.
Okay.
But I think we should be able to work out a plan to get started in January, by mid-January, assuming we can get the final contract.
Yeah. I'm kind of both surprised and disappointed that we weren't able to find more firms interested in this project. I mean, this is a pretty standard project, right? In terms of
But
doing.
it's very time heavy.
Yeah.
And paying at even minimum wage, it's almost impossible.
Right.
And if you want to do a good job, you're going to need people who actually have training.
So you're right, Helen. And what this group had come back and proposed to us, or what I guess Jeff had proposed to them, is that we would split the work. And we kind of followed up, Helen, on the conversation that you and I had at Tom's house, where we said, like, we're here, we can do some other field work. And then that the firm would be more responsible for, collecting the data and then bringing the data into PA share. Not collecting data, bringing the data together and then putting it into PA share, right? So Jeff and I are trying to get a call set up, hopefully for Friday, with this firm to make a proposal that the members of the commission be involved in doing the field work. And then submitting that data back to the firm for integration into PA share. Okay, but I would also expect the firm to put together a plan for how to do the project, right? Doesn't,
Right.
Are we going to do it, street by street or region by region? Are we going to do it based on age? I mean, those things are still outstanding. I would expect them to do that, come back to the plan, and then we can discuss at our next meeting, who's available to go out and do. And the field work is largely means taking pictures.
It's a windshield survey.
It's a windshield survey, yeah.
And
So.
because if we use our mobile phones to do the photos, we'll get the GPS locations and stuff right from the photo, which will save a lot of effort.
Right, yeah.
The photos from the last one included all the outbuildings, or mostly included a lot of the outbuildings, rear views, side views.
Where possible, yeah.
And today you could do drone shots.
Yeah, so I think once we have kind of that scope of work or the division of the work spelled out, then we could talk about, as a commission, who's available and what they're doing. I mean, for example, Victor has a drone, so if we wanted to do drone shots, he might be able to help. We all have cell phones, right? But all of this is done from public property, so we're not able to go onto property. We're not able to. So if we can get views of the side elevations, the rear elevations, that's great. But if we can't get them from going on, we might only be able to get the front elevation. I
No,
Don't have to have that permission.
not without permission over private property.
After looking.
Hey,
at
guys,
how
remember to
many-
put your mics on, and guys, gotta remember
Sorry,
to put your mics on and speak into your mics. Like, I can tell you're talking, but I don't think anyone can hear what you're
Would it
saying.
help if I turned it on?
Yeah.
Oh, there's that.
Sorry about that.
I guess it's close too, yeah. Right.
I was gonna say drone shots, but only with permission
Yeah.
from people, I would think. I did a brief overview of township properties before 1810 or 1820 and came up with a whole lot more than I thought I was going to come up with. It was surprising how many there actually are.
And where are you pulling that information from?
Personal data. I mean, I know where they are. So I pulled it from the maps and from the, actually it's on the 18, it's overshot on the original grantee's map.
Okay. All right. So I think by the January meeting, hopefully we have the outline of a plan in place, and then we can discuss in more detail how we're going to go about doing that. Okay.
And one of the components, Joe, we're gonna have to ensure it gets done is a community announcement, community involvement.
Yeah.
program is part of the funding.
Right.
It includes, basically make sure people know we're doing it, so they're not surprised we're taking pictures of their
Yeah.
houses.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next topic, cataloging of township-owned materials. Cathy has graciously agreed to take the leadership on this since Chris resigned from the commission. So Cathy, I'll turn it over to you.
So not much to report. So yeah, Cathy is coordinating it, but I think Dawn is going to be the brain power for it. And she's just been ill and as of now, we're going to meet on Monday, and my goal is to at least have a plan by January and then kind of take it from there. So there's really nothing else to report at this time.
I have a person who works with the Newtown Historical Society, and I'll send you over his email. And I've reached out to him, so feel free to copy me when you reach out to him, and perhaps he can join you and Dawn at that meeting. Okay, because he is willing to come in and go through and help us with scanning and digitizing and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think getting volunteers to scan and digitize is the issue. The issue is the plan,
Yeah.
figuring out what is important. So that's kind of where my initial
Yeah.
focus is. The scanning stuff,
But I think he's done that for Newtown. So anyway, I'll send you
Yeah.
that and you can look at that. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on that project? All right, thank you. Moving on to the demolition ordinance status. So actually, there's been a lot of great progress on this over the past couple of weeks. So at the Board of Supervisors meeting last week, the supervisors reviewed the proposed ordinance and approved it to be sent to the Planning Commission for consideration and comment. So on Monday, it was in front of the Planning Commission, and they largely agreed with it. They made one addition to it, which I think is a very good addition to it. And that is in the case of a demolition or a relocation, that no certificate of occupancy for the new project should be issued unless all of the requirements of the demolition ordinance are met. And it was largely based on the fiasco, if I may say, of Edgewood Village and what's happened up there with that, with promises made and promises not kept, So they are going to, so the solicitor is going to put that language into the draft ordinance. And then the Planning Commission approved sending that to the Bucks County Planning Commission. They need to review the ordinance. They have 30 days to give us feedback. And my understanding, and Suzanne, correct me if I'm wrong, is that once we get that feedback, it'll go back before the Board of Supervisors, and they will be asked to approve it for public notification.
So are we looking at February, March?
So we're looking at, yes, we are looking at it being completed around February or March. Okay. So that's awesome. It's really good progress on that. Okay. And then we'll talk a little bit more when we talk about next year with regards to, there's a good chunk of work in there for the Historic Commission too. So. Okay, America 250 planning. There's no one name next to this. I should have put Monica's name next to it. So we had agreed last time to have 3 separate initiatives that would do some background research, report back in February, and then based on that, make a decision on how to apply for a grant. The grant deadline is, I believe, in April, back to the state for resources. So one of those was around Slate Hill. So I will ask Cathy to update us on the research that's being done there.
We're still kind of determining the list. I mean, Dawn has gone through the list that we have of people that are buried there and identified those who lived during that time period. So that's kind of where that's at. I mean, it doesn't look like we have any soldiers. We kind of go back and forth. Like Dar says we do, but we're not really sure about him. So anyway.
You can't hear Helen?
What is it? I can't hear.
So what we are looking at was what Revolutionary wartime burials are in Slate Hill Cemetery that we could highlight as part of America 250. That's the research that Cathy and the group are doing.
Who they are?
Dawn has already determined a list of who they are, so now we're gonna have to figure out who we can figure out an interesting story on, because just because they're there doesn't mean that there's any information that we can find, especially that far back, and especially if they're women.
So are we talking about Joshua and Daniel Anderson?
Well, we don't know that Joshua's buried there,
Exactly.
so no, we're not talking about him. We're talking about finding people that are buried there. And telling their stories.
Is buried there probably.
Yeah, she's got a list of everybody from that time period, and then we have to kind of weed it down.
And we don't have very many stones from that time period anyway.
Fair, yeah.
Okay. So that was one initiative. And the other one, the second one was around troops that are stationed in LMT and in the township during the 1776 crossings. And Helen, Monica had asked that you take the lead on this. So the group that was assigned was Victor, Helen, Jim, Monica, and Dawn.
Okay, so I've actually already started doing that. So that's what's on that map. There are 3 X's on that map, which show sites that I think probably held troops.
Okay.
One is the Patterson farm. One is around Char-Ann Farm. Palmer lands right there on the south side of Bedford Village. And the third is Makefield. And I have expressed that before because Makefield at the time of the American Revolution was Thomas Yardley's farm. It was known as his farm
Right, yeah,
because he was the Tory sitting in Trenton.
yes.
And rather than the Thomas Yardley, who was actually serving on the Committee of Safety.
Yeah, and we know that there are letters from Washington to Pemberton, I think, and from Pemberton back that have Yardley's farm on it. So it's the question of which Yardley and which farm.
Yeah, the reason would be that the farm that would be Prospect Farm up the hill would not be a safe place to, looking at the roads that are in existence,
Yeah,
would not be a safe place to put troops. The Macclesfield would have had 3 possible exits for troops quickly. Afton Avenue, Oxford Valley Road went all the way down to the river, and Black Rock Road went up. So there would be 3 possible ways for the troops to get out should someone come across the river.
good. All right. Good. The third topic on that was looking at Washington's path through Lower Makefield Township. And Tom and I exchanged a few emails on this. I think the challenge is
I also did the roads.
yes, I saw that.
So,
But I guess my question is how do we know, like, what evidence do we have that Washington came through Lower Makefield on his way from Somerset to the Keith House?
I think there's really good evidence. I really think that there is.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the roads go, the fact that we know that they were camped close to that Palmer farm. There's enough buckshot and cannonballs, etc., that we know that they were definitely in that area. And Lindenhurst Road would have been available to go to 532. So I would think before the 18th, they were here in Lower Makefield. That's on the go.
Oh, the troops were definitely here. I'm not debating that. I'm debating, well, I'm not debating. I'm asking how could we ascertain that Washington came through Lower Makefield to reach the Keith House and didn't go from Falls because he was at Somerset. He didn't go Somerset. He didn't go there out to Newtown and then up to the Keith House, which wouldn't have brought him through the township.
I doubt he would move troops up.
Oh, he wasn't moving troops.
Yeah,
He was just
so
moving himself.
Washington personally, I think he was all over the place with his contingent of
Yeah.
horsemen following him. We have the sighting at the Weiner House. We don't know which Weiner House it is. There are 3. in Lower Makefield, that particular point. That's pretty solid, that's in Davis. It's a pretty solid, finding that he died at least once in Lower Makefield. So I
Right.
think we could explore that.
So we have a letter from him on the 13th of December that says headquarters Somerset. And then we have a letter from him on the 14th of December that says headquarters Keith House. Okay, and then in between those, there's another letter from him, also dated the 14th, and it says headquarters Bucks County. So that Bucks County. So he was in transition. He was in transition on that day, right? But we don't know again where. So that's the challenge I think we have is how do we ascertain that he came through here?
So it's basically going to be a series of who puts on the best explanation and exploits what they can out of it. You know, I mean, really, that's.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's,
That's
yeah, that's the thing. So I guess the goal was that we do the research, report it back in February, and then decide. I think in general, if there's anything at Slate Hill, we talked about just expanding the work that we've done with the QR codes, you know, for that. I guess it was choosing between one of the other two in which to apply for the grant to get resources to develop it. So I think whatever research we have, we can make a decision on what's the better story to tell.
Should we try to apply for Joshua Anderson? I'm thinking maybe we should try.
What do you mean to apply for Joshua Anderson?
All right, so the problem with Joshua Anderson is where he's buried. There are two possibilities. He's either in Slate Hill Cemetery or he's in the Presbyterian churchyard in Doylestown. Okay, so he lived most of his life in Lower Makefield Township. He served during the Revolution. His farm was adjacent to Yardley's farm. So the troops were basically camped on his land as well, which he wrote down in his memoir that they were camped on his land. So, you know, so that's the other reason why I think that's where they were camped. It's also blocked by the islands, so you can't see people on that side of the river from New Jersey. Anyway, but that's, you know, the point is that when he died in like 1818 at his daughter's house in Doylestown. There, the find a grave has, which is a modern compliant thing, has him buried in the Presbyterian graveyard, but the church wasn't even built in 1818. The church wasn't built till 1840. There was no graveyard there. So I don't know what they're talking about. I would think he came back to his family plot here at Slate Hill.
But the grant we're talking about is a grant specifically around America 250 and how we interpret that for the township. So,
Well, if we get a tombstone for him and a monument to him, that would be a big deal.
that would be one idea.
Yeah, the information you're saying and what they have on the find a grave link to Doylestown Presbyterian Church is different. They say it was founded in 1804. And they're showing a stone, so I don't think Joshua.
I mean, again, I think it's up to the teams to put together the research that they found and make a proposal on why that's significant to America 250 and how we would, and most importantly, how we would interpret it for the public. And then I think based on those, we'll decide which one to apply for the grant.
Is it legible?
Is it legible?
Hmm. It looks like it's legible. I mean, I'm not seeing, you know, I can't, my eyes aren't, you know, whatever, but I think if you went to the actual lot 74, you'd be able to see it.
Yeah.
Looks as legible as some of ours.
Okay. All right, let's move on then to Slate Hill Cemetery. Monica's not here. Victor's not here also because that was the one thing she asked me to follow up with Victor on the segregated section and how that survey was going. But she has already drafted, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, some goals and objectives for next year to move forward with the headstone project. The last thing is the Patterson Farm National Register submission. And I need to start pulling this together. We're a little bit behind where I wanted to be. We'll talk about that next. I thought we would have it submitted by the end of the year. We're not quite there yet. Helen, could you send me your most recent document around historical significance? Can you send me your most recent document on historical significance for Patterson Farm?
Not quite ready.
Okay,
Actually, currently it's 12 pages. I'm still waiting on the evidence of the crop rotations and also waiting on the descriptions of the little buildings.
Okay.
Haven't gotten that.
yeah, well, Wendy's going to send me the architectural descriptions, but we'll talk about the research after this meeting, okay? All right. Good. That's update to the existing businesses. Now, let's go on to new business. And usually at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, we send a summary of the previous year to the Board of Supervisors that says, hey, we're the Historical Commission, this is what we did. Okay. And what I wanted to do is just go around and top of mind, what are the things that we should put into that document for this year? So I will note the ghost walk.
Take the low hanging fruit. Well, along with the ghost tour, there's all the work we did in the cemetery up to the ghost tour that I think every
Wednesday.
every tombstone has been cleaned, which was a tremendous effort led by Monica and Tom. I have been doing a ton of work on actually finding the missing people. And I have found lots of people whose names aren't on any list we have and documenting them with this. So the only ones I can really verify are the people that died past 1907. But there's a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of them children and babies. But we're coming closer to getting a full list of that.
We got the site up and running and the QR code, so that project.
Yeah, hello.
Right? Yep, that project got. In fact, you know what? Let me.
The social media, we started the Instagram and the Facebook, and we're getting really good engagement on.
Really good.
I mean, I'm only doing the Facebook part, but I'm sure.
So you're doing newspapers and you're doing.
We have the articles. Very good. Yes.
Yes. That was Monica, not me, but but it was done.
Newspapers and.
Also received 2 grants.
We have the grants. I was just gonna pull up the.
Did you say social media?
And there's signed the cemetery.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is why we do this in groups. Okay.
Joe, I think you should capture the work that you represent, that you're doing with the Patterson Farm group.
Yes, we will do that too. Right. I know. Yeah.
We also visited 3, 4 properties to survey.
Oh, yeah. The pictures of the one we just took.
Cricket.
We had 4 properties ready to survey. We get the one near Helen's home. We went to the farmhouse on Patterson Farm.
Right.
But there's 2 others I couldn't go to that were more recently.
We did cricket.
Actual houses, there's barns, there's sheds, there's garages, there's,
How many did we do this year? Was it 4?
how many were here during the revolution?
No. How many buildings did we survey in 2024?
Well, we went to Prickett, we went to Helen's house. That one, what's the one your neighbor's property called? It's
Harris,
the Harris house. And we did the,
Stockton. It was a Stockton house.
okay, and we did the Wright farm.
Does that include everything Victor did? Because I remember, okay.
The Palmer
think-
houses, there's 2 Palmer houses, 3 Palmer. David, Mark, and John.
So here's what we had put out for our objectives for the year. So why don't we start with going through that? So
And the demolition ordinance.
yeah, well, then the demolition ordinance too. Okay, continued work on preservation of Slate Hill Cemetery. So we actually achieved the Keystone Preservation Grant. We finished, as you pointed out, Cathy, the beautification of the cemetery with the cleaning of the tombstones and the community cleanup day, and then the cleaning of the grave markers.
There's also the one on Quarry Road.
I know, but that wasn't on our list for this year. Okay, so we did not get Patterson Farm listed on the National Register, but work has been done on the historical significance, and we'll highlight that.
Done by the first.
Okay, and then as Suzanne pointed out, we called it here the Ad Hoc Property Committee, but I've been representing the commission on what's now called the Patterson Farm Implementation Committee, and there's a lot of
Looking at
work.
Yardley or
There's a lot of work that we had done there in terms of how to structure nonprofits for supporting that. So I'll call that out. The cataloging project did not make much progress this year, so we'll skip that. But the Historic Resources Survey, we have the grant in-house now, and we'll talk about the bidding process. And hopefully, if we could have a good conversation tomorrow, we can say that we have a vendor by the
we
end of
also
the year.
documented the houses that were demolished.
Yeah, that's what Jeff was pointing out before, right? Yes. Oh, the other one on Oxford Valley Road.
Beans, Oxford Valley Road
Yeah.
and Mill Road.
Okay. America 250 has just started, as we were talking about. We've completed the Slate Hill Cemetery interpretation project. We had the ghost walk or ghost tour.
The LiDAR.
We had the LiDAR, right? And of course, we had then the other thing which wasn't on here is the demolition ordinance.
Several talks to seniors groups and public groups at the community center. One talk there, one talk at Regency.
I will pull something together over the holidays and I'll send it out. I'll send it out before our January meeting for your review. And we can get comments on it and approve it at the January meeting, and I'll send it on to the Board of Supervisors after that. Okay? Good.
Do you need our educational stuff?
I don't need it for this, but Jim will need it for CLG.
Because I did
Stuff. Yeah.
seminar with the Cartersville.
Let's talk about the 2025 goals and objectives, what we want to accomplish next year. So.
Well, I would say with Slate Hill, I don't know if we're going to quantify it with a number, but we want to add, like, I would say another 10 or 15 QR codes. I think we ended up with 12, right?
Slate Hill biographies, I'll call it.
Okay.
Slate Hill biography project.
All right,
We've received the estimate for the repairs of the walls to Slate Hill. Do we want to put anything in about trying to get those repairs done next year?
it's not in the budget. We did not budget for it. I mean, we could put it around a preservation grant, but we got a lot of stuff. I would say no.
I'm continuing my investigation of pockets of African American habitation in Lower Makefield and history of that group.
I note, sorry, I know 250 is going to make your list. So coming up with a better name than 250. And do you want to be as specific as including the outreach with the schools as like a sub goal of that? Because
For next year also, right?
yeah, because that, if we don't have that in place by the end of December next year, it's going to, be a hard lift.
One of the things that Suzanne recommended is under our America 250 that we have some sort of outreach to the schools, and that needs to be in place by the end of next year.
Yeah,
So
our articles that we did too.
I have a question for you guys. What are we doing about Slate Hill and the school system and getting the word out to the school system that Slate Hill exists and possibly drive those students into Slate Hill Cemetery.
Let's capture that better on the minutes. That could sound funny. Get the students into the cemetery. Sorry, no.
I want to capture the different minutes other than driving children to the.
Want to drive those. It's an
I mean,
education.
bad enough Kathy already said there's a lot of kids in the
Opportunity.
cemetery, but you know.
It's supposed to be an educational opportunity. So has anybody approached the school system, Pennsylvania school system, with a plan or an outline as what kind of opportunities might represent historic for the students to learn about the history of the township? And a lot of this starts with Slate Hill.
I had done that during COVID. We could update that. You also have I also have a slideshow on veterans that are buried in Slate. Both colored veterans and the other side. So all of their service records, all of their information.
That's suggesting is why don't we get in touch with Pennsbury and Falsington? And I have a very good friend who's on actually the school board and develop a program so these teachers know that this is available to them. And I think these students, and I don't know in what grades.
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade?
Pennsylvania history.
Fourth Pennsylvania history. So any grades above fourth grade, they would not be interested in this sort of thing at all. Really?
No, they don't even teach it.
Really? Okay, so fourth grade. So somehow they must be able to reach the right people to get the word out to the administration, teachers, to include in their lesson plan.
I think if you want to take it on,
I'll be happy.
have at it, but I think probably I can speak for Monica and myself, we're kind of capped at capacity.
So we'll do this. I mean, right now we're brainstorming ideas. Okay. So we'll put that on the list. Okay. And I think is when we get to the January meeting is when we need to decide when we put names next to things, Cathy, like you said, right? You know, because if there's no name, it doesn't go on the goals and objectives. So there's no owner. Okay. So I think from the Slate Hill perspective, Monica, again, she sent me comments around the implementation of the headstone project and all of what that involves. That's the Keystone Preservation Grant. We have the Slate Hill biography project, and then we'll also put under there what Jim talked about for reach out to the school districts. On America 250, we have the projects and the interpretation, the projects and how we're going to interpret them. We have the grant submission to support that. And then we also have the engagement with schools. And we have the time capsule we have to do. And I think the time capsule and the engagement with schools is somehow going to go together, because what I like to think about is we have to decide what goes into that time capsule. And it's going to be buried for the next 50 years. It should probably be decided by people who are going to be here in the next 50 years. So
That's a good point.
you know, so I think that may be a really good way of involving the schools too, like a contest in terms of what goes into the time capsule and things like that. That'd be a good way. All right. So I have those two. Now, the demolition ordinance, right? We are on the hook for creating this historic buildings inventory as outlined in Appendix D of that. So that's going to be a decent amount of work. So I'm going to definitely put that on the list. And I'm going to work through a little bit with Megan McNish from SHPO, some examples of what that might look like and what's involved with that. And then we can figure out who will have the lead on that. We have the historic resource survey we have to do. So we'll have that on the list for next year because we have that grant money, I believe, needs to be spent next year. Right?
It has to be spent during calendar 2025.
Yeah, so we have to do that next year. We have the National Register submission for Patterson Farm.
And repeating the catalog.
Oh, the catalog project, right? Right.
Take two.
Does that sound like a good list, or does anyone else have anything else they'd like to put on that? Okay, thank you. I will put this together. Again, circulate it around before our meeting, for people who have other ideas, but more important at that meeting is where we want to start putting people's names next to projects. And if we don't have names, then we can't do the project. So I would ask people to consider how they want to spend their time. I guess there'll be another ghost tour next year too, right?
Uh-huh.
Put that on the list. Good. Okay, anything else on our 2025 goals and objectives?
Still working on that octagonal schoolhouse.
Perfect. 2025 officers, we do not need to elect them tonight. We elect them in January. But I thought it would be worthwhile to have a conversation to see who might be interested in serving as chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And I would say that I have served as chair for the last 3 years now. And it's difficult for me with this format and me not being here to be chair, because it turns out that more often than not, I'm asking Cathy to prep for the meeting, do all the logistics in terms of getting us here and getting us set up and chairing the meeting. So I have asked, and she has offered, if I may, to be the chair for 2025. So I would ask, is anyone else interested in being chair for 2025?
I'm interested in supporting Cathy.
Thanks, I think.
I have, is it good for chair? I mean, again, we can.
I also did say to Joe that I was also doing it dependent. I would like him to stay as vice chair so that he can kind of guide me through it, because as I've been doing some of this stuff, I've learned there's a lot behind the scenes that I need to understand.
And I would agree to stay on as vice chair. I mean, I can attend at most of the meetings. It's just that I'm not here physically for at least half of them, So. Anyone else would like to run for vice chair? Nominations? Okay, secretary. Now here we do have a need, because Chris was our secretary and he resigned. So we'll need a secretary for next year. Helen? I see. Okay. And treasurer? Tom has offered to stay on as
I
treasurer.
was gonna say, well, whether he offered or not, he's not here, so.
Tom has offered to stay on as treasurer. Okay, so consider that. We'll put forward that slate of candidates at our January meeting. That'll probably be the first thing we do at the January meeting. I don't think I will see you with that or up and running. All right, the last topic on tonight's agenda, and we can just talk about these two groups that we joined. I had joined Lower Makefield Township has joined the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. And this is a very interesting group because it is tailored towards commissions and committees that act on behalf of state and municipal governments. The group that Cathy has joined is a group that is focused more around what I would call historical societies. So they could be nonprofits. They could be working for the municipal government, but they could also be nonprofits, right? So they're two important groups in terms of thinking about historic preservation, but they come at it from a slightly different approach. So what I will do is I will continue to monitor. They have a lot of education sessions here and a lot of really good education sessions. I will continue to monitor their upcoming webinars and pass that on to you for that. But if there's questions that come up, even during the year about how we should handle things, like this would have been very interesting. I joined their, they have a group list where they have questions. And one of the first emails I got was, does anyone have any experience in putting in place a demolition ordinance? So So it gives you an idea of the kind of questions and the kind of things they're discussing at this. So I will continue to pass that along. But what I did ask, if you would like to be on their distribution list, please let me know. You don't have to send me your email address. I have your email address, but please let me know, because they asked me to put the names from Lower Makefield Township into a spreadsheet and send that to them. And then they'll link us all together as a group, and they'll put all of you on, so you'll get the information. You'll also be able to go on and look at their archives of back materials, especially their educational sessions, if there's anything you want to dive into there. So action item, if you want to be on that list, please let me know by tomorrow, because I'm going to send that over to them. I did also, I know Monica, Cathy, you've responded to that. Monica's responded. Yes, Tom has responded. So did you want to talk about the other organization?
Yeah, so the other one is the American Association for State and Local History, and I just have sort of pulled up the page, and I think for people working on the 250, there's a lot of resources for there. And I just was sort of looking at that thing, and it looked like just myself, Joe, Monica, and Mike Kirk, an employee, are registered. So you just sign up, and then you link to the organization, pay for the organizational membership. They also do a lot of trainings. I went to one on graveyards, which honestly was just mediocre, because I think they use salespeople to do a presentation, and so that one wasn't a winner, but I'm sure they have other ones that are. They have a free one on archiving that I was gonna take too, so that I wouldn't be totally like when I'm talking to Dawn about that project, but so we can take those. And I think there's usually a small fee, even if you're a member. But you can give Tom a receipt for reimbursement. I think that's.
I'll let you know too about any that the architecture profession
Yes,
puts out, because we get inundated with technical
right.
things. Just attended one, and it was too late to let people out, and it was full. At Carver's Hill Inn, which had been totally flooded when it had that big storm in last spring. And it's been completely redone, but amazing, interesting new technologies of establishing dams literally in the basement to contain future flood, and how to protect resources. So it was unbelievable, very interesting.
Sounds it.
Yeah, the National Alliance has also a number of great webinars. If you're interested in architecture and wonder what the difference between a Queen Anne style and Second Empire or anything like that, they have a lot of great resources that you can, videos that goes through and explains the architectural styles and the features. I think it's going to come in handy probably for the demolition ordinance, as we begin to write the significant statements for these properties, that we're using the appropriate terms.
I'm hoping that maybe that's my next course, architecture.
All right, any other new business for this evening? No? Good. Public comment? I think they're all wrapping Christmas presents. So
It's not even 8:30.
I know, moving right along. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, January 8th at 7:30. Katie just sent out a confirmation, or asking us to confirm the January and February meetings. They're on the usual time, second Wednesday, 7:30. So I'll just confirm we're okay with those dates. That's January 8th. We'll meet here. The agenda will be to finalize the goals and objectives, review where we are with America 250, have some more details around the implementation of the demolition ordinance, and then historic resource survey. But since this will be our last meeting with our current liaison, I would like to thank Suzanne for all her support this year. And we really appreciate your input and helping us, both encouraging us and advising us on how to move forward with our initiatives. It was very helpful. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, guys. I'm really impressed with all that you have done, and all that you continue to do. It. If you kept timesheets as volunteers, I think I'd be scared to see them. So thanks for putting in the work.
You're welcome. Thank you. So if there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved.
Second, all in favor? Happy holidays, everyone. See you in the new year. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So-
Read this. Stop recording this.
Kathy,